the beginning of the season of Lent, I talked to you about what I think the importance of recognizing this season in the church. It's to take a look at ourselves, our relationship to Christ, His relationship to us, we know. It isn't going to change. It's unconditional love. But to look at our relationship with Him, our relationship to ourselves, and now our relationship to each other. From the 22nd chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus has been teaching, and according to verse 33 and following, the crowds were profoundly impressed by his answers, but not the Pharisees. When they heard that he'd routed the Sadducees with his replies, they thought up a fresh question of their own to ask him. Now what they're trying to do is they're trying to put Jesus into a position where he offends or says something that he can be arrested for by the Romans, or that he's going to say something that's going to tick off the Jews to the point that they won't have anything to do with him. So the Sadducees come, and they ask him questions, and he handles those superbly, perfectly, if you will. And so the Sadducees, or the Pharisees, decide they're going to give it a shot. So one of them, a lawyer, spoke up. "Sir, which is the most important command in the laws of Moses?" And Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. The second most important is similar. Love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. All the other commandments and all the demands of the prophets stem from these two laws and are fulfilled if you obey them. Keep only these, and you will find that you're obeying all of the others." I believe it was St. Augustine who said, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and do anything you want." Think about that. Love God with all of your heart and do anything you want. Well, if you love God with all of your heart, what is it you're going to do that would be awful? Nothing. Nothing. It makes perfect sense. Love the Lord with all of your heart, soul, and mind. I mean, Augustine wasn't saying anything that he came up with. He's just repeating Jesus. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, and mind. This is the first and most important, or greatest. And the second is similar. Love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. That's why last Sunday I spoke with you about taking a look at yourself, forgiving yourself. Because if we can't love ourselves, we've got no love to give to anybody else. Jesus was talking about loving your neighbor in another instance in the Gospels, and he got asked basically the same question, and the gentleman that asked the question was really trying to be able to justify hating some of his neighbors. And you know, when you look at the situation that Israel was in at the time that Jesus was there, I don't suppose they cared much for the Babylonians. Don't suppose that they cared a whole lot for the Egyptians. Don't imagine they liked the Philistines. I mean, these people had all held them in captivity at one time or another. And you can darn well bet that they didn't like the Romans, who had invaded their country and conquered it and now were occupying it. So now they're being held in captivity again. Well, what neighbors? The guy's saying, like he doesn't know who his neighbors are. And then Jesus gives us the parable of the Good Samaritan. So he's really talking about all of our neighbors. You're saying, yeah, but I don't like those people. Well, you know what? That's between you and Jesus. If you really have an issue with somebody, okay, take it up with him the next time you talk to him. But the question is, would you like to be my neighbor? Sometimes being a neighbor is simply talking over the fence to the people next door. When I was growing up in our neighborhood, if you built a fence more than 5 feet high, it was called a spike fence. It was a spike fence, yeah. And the neighborhood really looked down on you to do that. And that's when I was growing up. You put a 4-foot or a 5-foot fence up to keep your animals in. But boy, if you went above that, it was real pointed. But when I bought a house in Arizona, I bought in a brand new subdivision, and the first thing my neighbor on the right and left and I did was put a 6-foot fence up clear around the 3 houses. You know, we split the cost, but we wanted that privacy in the backyard. I remember growing up living in the front yard, basically, and my parents did. My dad put up a badminton net and paddles, and we would play, and occasionally the moms would play, and the dads would come home from work and have a beer and play badminton and talk politics and do all those kinds of things that neighbors do. But we lived on the front yard, on the front porch. But when I built or bought the house in Arizona, it's all about the patio in the backyard. It's all about the air conditioning. We didn't have air conditioning when I grew up. You left the doors open and the windows open. And you lived on the front porch, and people knew each other. You were neighbors. And you knew what was going on with your neighbors. And in an awful lot of ways, that was a really good place to grow up. I lived in the same house for like 17 years. We're neighbors. We're neighbors here in the church. We don't see everybody every day, but we're neighbors. We're neighbors with people basically all over the world. Because we've got such instantaneous communication with everybody. It doesn't take us weeks to find out what happened in South America, or what happened in the Middle East, or what happened in Asia, or Australia, or wherever. Sometimes we're neighbors and we don't even know we're neighbors. And we reach out to each other. Debated on whether to share this with you, but I won't share it with New Hope because it doesn't pertain to New Hope, and I don't always bring the same message to one congregation that I do the other. First of all, let me once again say thank you for the birthday card and your thoughts and your words. And thank you so much for the very generous gift. There was a good deal of cash in the birthday card. That was last Sunday. Last Sunday night, I went in and got the last 2 oatmeal raisin cookies and a glass of milk, and I was going to eat those and have that milk before I went to bed. And I put them down on the coffee table in the TV room and went into the kitchen for just a minute to get something, and came back, and Marvin ate one of the top of oatmeal raisin cookies. I called the emergency animal hospital because raisins are really deadly to dogs. grapes and raisins, and then Barb went on the internet and found a whole list of things that are really bad. But grapes and raisins, they said, you better bring them in right away. And wanted to know, how long it had been, but we took him right away. And we're really scared, because I know where this is going, and I feel guilty because, I should have known better. But we got down there, and at 9 o'clock Sunday night, that's not a happy place. Nobody takes the animal in for a wellness check at 9 o'clock Sunday night to an emergency hospital. And so we're sitting there, and there's a couple that are there with a little dachshund, and it's obvious that the dog's not doing well. And then a little while later, out comes this big German Shepherd, and he's got a leash, but nobody's got it. He's just walking around, he's checking things out, and the big husky guy with eyes that were kind of glistening apparently had been talking to the vet or one of the technicians and sort of forgot that the dog was there, but he came out and that was fine. And so they took Marvin back, and I was pretty sure there were 2 raisins in the cookies, is all, because they were from Winco. Well, they're not going to be filled with raisins, they're going to be a couple of raisins. But not to get too graphic, but they induced him to throw him up, and he did. And then they did another test and gave him another medication. And so he's going to be okay. We're waiting for them to finish with him and getting ready to leave. And these 2 ladies came in, and it was obvious that the one lady was helping the other one. And this was an older lady with a little dog, and I overheard her say to the lady at the front desk, I don't have any money for tests. She said, my dog's been diagnosed with a cancerous tumor on his bladder, and he got really sick today, and I'm really worried. So I said to Barb, the birthday card is out in the car. We have some money for some tests. So I went and talked to the folks, and the young lady was very nice. She said, how do you want me to handle it if she wants to know your name and address or what have you? And I said, it's okay to tell her after we leave. Don't tell her before, but if she asks for it, it's okay. See, you're her neighbor. You're her neighbor. And please understand, I'm not the hero in this story, okay? You are. And Jesus is. What did he say about this? That this is such a perfect example. The Gospel of Mark, the 6th chapter, beginning with the 35th verse. Late in the afternoon, his disciples came to him and said, tell the people to go away to nearby villages and farms and buy themselves some food, for there's nothing to eat here in this desolate spot, and it's getting late. But Jesus said, you feed them. With what? They asked. It would take a fortune to buy food for all this crowd. How much food do we have? He asked. Go and find out. They came back and reported that there were 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. Then Jesus told the crowd to sit down, and soon colorful groups of 50 or 100 each were sitting on the green grass. He took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, gave thanks for the food. Breaking the loaves into pieces, he gave some of the bread and fish to each disciple to place before the people. And the crowd ate until they could hold no more. There were about 5,000 men there for that meal, and afterwards, 12 baskets of scraps were picked up off the ground. When you so generously contributed to my birthday gift, it was whatever you put in there. It wouldn't have been enough to pay for the test they needed to run individually, but together it did. So because of you, I could do that. Because she's a neighbor. Didn't know her name, didn't know where she lived, didn't know anything about her. Don't know what church she went to, don't know if she goes to church. Don't know if she was a nice lady, don't know if she was the mean lady in the neighborhood. I just know that she was brokenhearted because I could tell this little dog meant everything to her. And she was helpless in this. Except that she was there. And I was there. I got a card from her. Barb and I did. Thank you card. It's addressed to us. But it's really a thank you card for you guys. Barbara and Gary, your kindness touched my heart during a very stressful time. It helped lift the burden I was facing. The love of my life was in serious trouble, and you saw it. Unfortunately, I had to say goodbye to him that night. I held him in my arms as he gently crossed that rainbow bridge. If you've never read that poem about what happens when your pet dies, it's a wonderful poem. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Judy. His name was McTavish. Mac. On behalf of a neighbor you'll probably never meet, thank you. Thank you. On behalf of all those kids at St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis, I know that some of you, some of us, contribute to that ministry and that research and the care that goes on at St. Jude's. On behalf of all those little kids who are your neighbors, thank you. For all of the people across the country and all over the world that have been wrapped in one of those blankets that you gave an extra $7 or $10 or $20, whatever you gave, so that somebody knows when everything in your life is wiped out, that there's somebody that knows and somebody that cares. Thank you. Thank you from your neighbors. Whatever you contributed to Operation Christmas Child, from all of those little kids, thank you for being a really good neighbor. So Wednesday, I'm in the office and I get both of these pieces of literature from the American Baptist. This is the America for Christ offering. I think you know that whenever we acknowledge and contribute to something from either the American Baptist or the Disciples of Christ, we always divide in half the giving for that, because some of these are similar. This is for their America for Christ offering for 2017. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind regard one another as more important than yourself. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. From Luke 6:31, treat others the same way you want them to treat you. Occasionally I've heard people say, well, how come it's always America that has to help everybody? How come nobody helps us? Well, gee, maybe it's because we're so overwhelmingly blessed we don't need it. That we have the ability to do that. Matthew 20:26, whoever wishes to become great among you shall be your servant. Jay had the devotion this morning at the men's group and used the scripture from the Gospels about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And offered to wash ours. That was the job that was given to the lowliest of the servants in a household. Proverbs 4:23, watch over your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the springs of life. And Galatians 6:9, let us not lose heart in doing good, for in due time we will reap if we do not grow weary. 1 Peter 5:7, cast all of your anxiety on him because he cares for you. From the international ministries of the American Baptist churches, Mexican Baptists respond compassionately to a humanitarian crisis. Imagine what it would be like if hundreds of displaced people appeared on the doorstep of your church today, desperately in need of food and shelter. What would you do? 6 Baptist congregations in Tijuana, Mexico found themselves in the midst of such a situation in October of 2016. Despite their limited means, they've been responding to the crisis with generosity and compassion ever since. We began to see a large number of refugees, 95% of them Haitians, showing up near the border hoping to cross into the United States because they have relatives there, explains Reverend Tim Long, International Ministries missionary in Mexico. Our churches saw the refugees filling the streets and decided to offer food and shelter. Tim says this would have been unimaginable 10 years ago. Once these congregations were focused inward, now they see themselves as a blessing to their community and to other nations. They don't have much to give, but they give it sacrificially. We are all under one God, a church leader said. We need not to be selfish, but the opposite, to practice love. And now is the time to do it. For years, I've heard about mission trips to Mexico. Youth groups going down there and helping to build churches, people going down there and helping to do all kinds of things. Baptists helping Baptists, if you want to look at it that way. These are our people. These are our neighbors who are now helping people that are desperate. And by the way, these are refugees. These are not people trying to sneak into the United States illegally. But they were desperate people. And because we're good neighbors, they were able to be good neighbors. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart. And love your neighbor as yourself. Amen? Amen. Thank you.